All right, let's work through the warm-up. So part 2 of P4 was perfect cubes, and then the difference of, or not the difference, sorry, the sum and difference of perfect cubes and factoring by grouping. So if I look at the first one that's there, okay, I can't factor anything out, but 64 and 125 are both perfect cubes. So I'm going to square root 64y to the third, and I get 4y square, cube root 125, and I get 5. So the first parentheses, I start with those two. I square the first term, which would be 16y squared. Square the last term, which would be 25. Multiply them together, which is 20y. And then remember, it's SOAP. Same, opposite, always positive. So same sign means it's negative. Opposite means it's positive. Always positive is the last one. And that's what you should get, oops, for number 1. Questions on that one? Remember, just like all the factoring, you can check these with the extra time by foiling them back out. If you've got the extra time, don't do them question by question. Wait till you get to the end. All right, number 2. This is also the difference, or the sum of 2 cubes. The cube of the first term would be y minus 2. The cube root of the last one would be x. And I'd get y minus 2 and then x. Square y minus 2, which I'm going to have to expand and FOIL. Square x to the, would be x to the second. Multiply these two together, I'd get x times y minus 2. Signs are same, opposite, positive. So now I've got some work to do. The first one's going to stay the way that it is, y minus 2 plus x. This, when I FOIL it out, becomes y squared minus 4y plus 4. Negative x distributed to both of these would be negative xy plus 2x plus x squared. See if there's anything to combine. In the first one, there's not. In the second one, there's an x squared, a y squared, x squared. Neither of those can get combined. There's a y to the first, not another one. An xy, not another one. Constant, not another one. And 2x. So even though it's a long answer, okay, it is correct.
Can you kind of pre-explain that one a little bit? The long answer one's kind of confused me.
Okay, so like, where did I lose you? From the beginning? Are you good with the cube rooting part?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay, so then this is the first, right? First plus the second, and that you can't combine. But then in the second set of parentheses, I square the first term, which is x minus, or y minus 2, right? So when you square it, you can use the shortcut, which is square the first one, square the last one, double the product, and that's where I get the middle term. Or you can just FOIL it out. Y minus 2 times y minus 2, first, outer, inner, last. And that's this whole part here. Then you would normally multiply these two together. So I'd get x times y minus 2. But the sign is opposite, which means it's minus. So I'm going to have to distribute a negative x to both of those. That's where negative xy and positive 2x comes from. And then that last term is always the last term squared, which is positive x squared. Most of the time, oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I don't understand where you got the plus 4 from.
Plus 4. So when I expand this,
Yeah.
so if you don't do the shortcut, right, you've got to multiply, you FOIL it.
Oh. Okay.
Y minus 2 times y minus 2. So it'd be y times y, negative 2y, negative 2y plus 4. So it becomes y squared minus 4y plus 4.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, last one on here, number 3, has 4 terms. 4 terms we group. So I'm going to take out from here a 2x squared, and I get 4x to the third minus 3. From the second set of parentheses, I can take out a positive 3, and I get 4x to the third minus 3. Then the parentheses is the same. That's now my greatest common factor. That comes out first. And then what's left over gets grouped together. for my second parentheses. If this first one, which we're going to see a little bit today, this factor completely, was something like a perfect square, so if that was 4x to the second minus 9 or something like that, then I would continue to factor that down, which we're going to see it happen a little bit today. But the way that it is, these are both prime, so they will stay exactly as it is. Okay, homework. Remember the odds are on Calc Chat, so I'm gonna read the odds. I'm sorry, the evens aloud. So if you're out in Notability, you can check it. 26 is x plus 5 times x squared minus 5x plus 25. 28 is 3y plus 1 times 9z squared minus 3z plus 1.
Miss Chris Weiser?
Yep.
Are you going to post these on Canvas?
I can.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. 30 is 4y minus 5 times 16y squared plus 20y plus 25. Then your factor by grouping. The evens there, 44x plus 5 times x squared minus 5. 46, 3x plus 1 times x squared minus 5. And 48, 2x squared plus 3 times 4x squared minus 3. And then I had you stop there because what's left is going to actually be in today's lesson.
Which group should you put first in your answer because it like switches it up sometimes?
It doesn't actually matter. They're both right. But by like maybe for the test so that I don't have to give so many options, I always put the greatest common factor, the one that's inside the parentheses. I usually pull that one out first. But this is the reverse and it's still right. It doesn't matter. Normally just by habit, I tend to pull out the one that's the greatest common factor first. But technically, those are both right. Just realize if it was multiple choice that they would both be right. All right, so let's dive into the last couple of types of factoring. Part 3 is the last couple types. Part 4 puts it all together and just says factor by grouping so you can see more than one at a time. So Chapter P, Section 4, Part 3 is going to be your trinomials. So 3 terms, but they are not your perfect squared trinomials. So that's how these are different from the ones we did in the very first section. The most typical and easy kind of factoring that a lot of us remember are these. When we're factoring and the A is 1, meaning the very first term is a positive x squared and then plus bx and then plus c. There's no other number than 1 on the front of that. And the way we factor that is to find the factors of the last term that sum to the middle term. Keep in mind that if the last term is positive, both signs have to be the same. And they would match the middle term. So if the middle term is minus, they're both going to be minus. If the middle term is plus, they're both going to be plus. If the last term is negative, think about how you get a product that would be a negative number. One has to be a plus and one has to be a minus. The larger of the two numbers should match the middle term. So first example is x squared minus 7x plus 12. So there's a 1 in front of here, which is how I know to do it this way. 12 is not a perfect square. Otherwise, I would have done the perfect square trinomial test. So I'm going to break 12 down into its factors until I find a sum that is negative 7. Now, if this is positive and this is negative, they both have to be negative. So if I don't catch it right away, go through all the factors of positive 12. It would be negative 1, negative 12, negative 2, negative 6, negative 3, negative 4. Then I want to see which of these sums matches my middle term. And that's the negative 3, negative 4. So then I separate these out into two parentheses. They each get an x in the first location, and then those two numbers follow the x's. So it could be x minus 3 times x minus 4, or it could be x minus 4 times x minus 3. Order here does not matter. Everybody with me so far? So the product, it's the product of the last number. So the last number, what two numbers would multiply together to give you that last term, right? But whose sum is the middle.
The middle term.
Correct. So this would have been negative 13. That's not my middle term. This would have been negative 8. That's not my middle term. This is negative 7, and that is my middle term.
Okay, okay, I know what we're talking about now.
Okay,
I'm just
good.
a little bit confused.
Okay.
Kind of.
Okay, well, do you think with more examples it would help, or you want me to go back?
I just have a question. So
Okay.
So if you multiply the last two terms, it has to equal the middle term.
All right, so the first one says x squared plus 5x plus 6, right? So I look first at my last. First of all, this is a 1, which is why I know I'm doing it the way I'm about to do it. The last term is 6. The middle term is it's a positive 6, which means they have to have the same sign. The middle term is positive, which means they both have to be positive. So the factors of 6 are 1 and 6 and 2 and 3. Which of those sums gives you the middle term? This would be 7, this would be 5. So I know it's the 2 and the 3. So I do x plus 2 and x plus 3.
How do you know whether to put plus or minus?
If the last term is plus, they both have to have the same sign, and the sign has to match the middle term. If the last sign is positive and the middle term is negative, they're both negative. If the last term is negative, like the one that's next, then I'll show you what we'll do. So number 2 says x squared minus x minus 6. Because this is a minus, that means one gets a plus and one gets a minus. So if you just went through the factors of 6, it could be 1 and negative 6 or negative 1 and 6, 2 and negative 3, negative 2 and 3. See which of these sums matches the middle term. That'd be a negative 5. That'd be a positive 5. That'd be a negative 1. That'd be a positive 1. This is a positive 1, so I want these two numbers, x plus 2, x minus 3. Now the rule is, to save us some work, the bigger of the numbers has to match that middle term. So already I could have ruled out this one and this one because the bigger of the numbers was not negative. But if you forget that, just work through all the factors until you find the one that works. So 3, last term is positive, but which means the same. Middle term is negative, which means both negative. So for 8, I get negative 1 and negative 8. I get negative 2 and negative 4, and that's the one that gives me negative 6. So x minus 2 and x minus 4. Everybody still with me?
Yes.
Okay. All right, you work through these. Try them out. All right, let's start with 4. So we've got a 1 at the front, which means I'm going to follow the pattern that I've been doing. Look at the factors of the last term, negative 24, that sum to negative 5. Because the last term's negative, I know that one has to be positive, one has to be negative. Because the middle term's negative, I know the bigger has to be negative. So if I did 1 and negative 24, 2 and negative 12, 3 and negative 8, there's my negative 5. So I get x plus 3 and x minus 8. Then I go to 5. 5 has 1 at the back, 1 at the front. They're both positive. The only factors of 1 are 1 and 1. 1 plus 1 does not equal 1. This is prime. So if there are no factors of the last number that sum to the middle, then the trinomial is prime. Go to 6. This time, last term's negative, middle term's negative. So the bigger of the two has to be negative. 1, negative 18. 2, negative 9. 3, negative 6. There's my negative 3. So it's x plus 3, x minus 6.
When we're writing them out, does the negative have to, like the parenthesis with the negative number in it, have to go before the one with the positive or after, or it doesn't matter?
It doesn't matter as long as the negatives with the 6 and the positives with the 3.
Okay, thank you.
For number 7, factors of 2, excuse me, 2 that sum to 3, they're both positive, so they both have to be positive, would be 1 and 2. So it'd be x plus 1 and x plus 2. Everybody good on if A is 1? So if the number at the front is 1, factors of the last that sum to the middle before we move on.
Yes.
Okay, good. All right, now what happens if A does not equal 1? What happens if there's a number at the front of my x squared and it's not a perfect square trinomial? Because that's what we've been doing, either perfect square trinomial or the difference of two squares or the cubes. What happens if it's none of that stuff is you actually have two options. One is this, which is trial and error. Trial and error means I'm going to have to plug in different numbers to see which one works with the first term and the last term. So if I look at 2x squared plus x minus 15, I could set up my two sets of parentheses. The first term in each is going to get filled with the product that would give me 2x squared. So 2 is pretty easy because it's got to be 2x and x. There's no other combination of that. If it was 12, I have to do 1 and 12, 2 and 6, 3 and 4. Victoria, you're in here twice again. Same thing happening? Can you put your camera on for me?
Yeah. I got
Okay.
kicked out.
Okay. It's weird though, it doesn't let you, the other one's still in here. Let me just kick you back out. There you go. Okay. All right. Then I have to work with the factors of negative 15. So think about all the factors of negative 15. It could be 1 and negative 15, negative 1 and 15, 3 and negative 5, negative 3 and 5. And I'm going to plug those into the second space in each. So I could try 1 and negative 15 first. And this would be a positive 1, negative 15. And then I'm going to multiply the outer two and the inner two together, add them, and see if it gives me my middle term. So this would be negative 30x plus 1x. That's negative 29x, and I needed it to be a positive 1. So I know that combination doesn't work. Here's the trial and error. So now I erase those two. If I try the other option, so I did that one, negative 1, positive 15. Now I get a positive 30x minus 1. Still way off. That one doesn't work. So then I go to the next one, which is positive 3, negative 5. Outer there is negative 10x, positive 3x, and I get negative 7x. That one doesn't work. So I go to the last one, negative 3, positive 5, and I get 10x minus 3x, which is positive 7x. Now the only other thing I can do is switch the 2x or switch the 3 and the 5. So if I switch those, and go the other way around, because that also works, right? 5 and negative 3, negative 5 and 3, 15, negative 1, and negative 15 and 1. So if I did 5, positive 5, negative 3, now I get negative 6x plus 5x. I'm getting warmer. My sign's just wrong. So if I switch the signs, negative 5, positive 3, I get 6x minus 5x, which is a positive 1x. And it took all those tries to get there, but I found the combination that works. It's called trial and error for a reason. You're going to do a lot of trial and error. The other option is this. Multiply the first and the last terms together. Find the
Wait, did you go back to the others?
So I tend to call that one trial and error, and this first and last, just so you can get an idea. Instead of me having to go through all the steps every time to explain what it is, I call this first and last. So we multiply the first term and the last term together. We find the factors of that product that sum to the middle term, and we replace the middle term with those two numbers, and then we'll have 4 terms, and we factor by grouping. So let me show you what that looks like. First, I take the 2x, well, I just take the 2 and the 15, but it's negative 15. So 2 and negative 15, and it's negative 30. Find the factors of that sum to 1. So one's got to be positive, one's got to be negative. The bigger one has to be positive, which means it's 1, negative 1, and 30. That's not going to work. Negative 2 and 15. That's not going to work. Negative 3 and 10. That's not going to work. Negative 5 and 6, and there's the combination that gives me 1. Now that's not my answer. These two terms with an X on them replace my middle term. The order doesn't matter there. I could have done 2x squared plus 6x minus 5x. As long as the positive goes on the 6, the negative goes on the 5. Now I've got 4 terms, and I'm going to factor it by grouping. So I'm going to group together the first 2 and the second 2. From the first set of parentheses, I'm going to take out an x. 2x minus 5. Second set of parentheses, I'm going to take out a positive 3. 2x minus 5. What's inside the parentheses is the same. And then I group together what's left. And it's the same answer I got the last time. So
You can use the trial and error and first and last, like either or, right?
Correct. Yep. And I actually go back and forth between them, I'll be honest.
Yeah.
Depending on the types of numbers. If, like, it's a 2 at the front, at the 3 at the end, where it's prime, and there's really only 2 options for each one, I tend to go with trial and error. But if you have something that's like 12, and you have to do 1 and 12 and 2 and 6 and 3 and 4.
Depends how long it is, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, so let's work through some examples. So let's do one of each kind. So if I was looking at 8, I would probably do trial and error just because 2 and 3 only have, they're both prime. So they only have them itself and 1 as their products. So if I did 8, I would group, again, I would do the 2 sets of parentheses. Factors of 2x squared would be 2x and x. And then 3, notice this is negative, so it has to be negative, is going to be negative 1 and negative 3, or negative 3 and negative 1. That's it. So I could do negative 1, negative 3, outer and inner, give me negative 6x minus 1x. That's negative 7x. That doesn't work. Or I switch it. Negative 3, negative 1. That's negative 2x minus 3x. And that's negative 5x. That matches my middle term. There's my answer. Now these can also be prime, keep that in mind, but that would be the answer this time. Now, if I did the second method on the next one, because if not, I have to do 1 and 2, and then I have to do 1 and 27, 3 and 9, and then reverse the orders each time. You can do it, but the other option here is 27, negative 27 times 2, that's negative 54. Factors of negative 54 that sum to negative 3. So 54 is the one, the bigger one has to be negative. 1 and negative 54. I could do 2 and negative 27. The better you get at this, the more you're going to realize that that's a small difference. So I want these to be closer together, like 6 and negative 9. That's negative 3. Replace your middle term with those two terms, and then factor by grouping. Take out a 2x, take out a negative 3. Nope, take out a negative 9, sorry. And then what's inside the parentheses gets grouped together, and what's left goes together. Just bigger numbers. So 8x squared plus 51x plus 18. We're going to go through the second method, okay, the first and last. So 8 times 18 is 144. All of them are positive. So it's 1 and 144. It's 2 and 72. It's 3 and 48. Right there is your 51. Replace the middle term. Group them. From the first set of parentheses, all you can take is the x. From the second set of parentheses, you could take a 6. What's inside here is the same. Group together what's left. Last one. This time let's try our trial and error, but notice that that first term is negative, which means it's either going to be 1, negative 6, negative 6, nope, negative 1 and 6, 2, negative 3, negative 2 and 3, or the switch of them. So this is where it gets a little bit worse. So try x and negative 6x, and then the factors of 3 are only 1 and 3, or 3 and 1. So if I did plus 1 plus 3, outer is 3x, sorry, minus 6x. That doesn't work. Switch them here. Plus 3 plus 1. Now I get 1x minus 18x, which is negative 17x. So I'm close. The problem is my signs. Switch the signs on the 6 and the x, and I get negative x plus 18x, which is 17x. Sometimes just your signs need to switch. So if you have the right number but the wrong sign, just switch your signs. Questions so far? Okay, so your homework, that's for tonight, is P4, and it says P4C. Let me see actually if I could open it. Okay, it looks like this, right? At the beginning it says factor completely. The assignment. I'll add it onto the assignment, but the whole first page pretty much, you're looking for the factors of the last one, that sum to the middle term. As soon as you get a factor in front of the x squared, that's when you're going to use the second method or one of the second methods. If you look at something like 7, remember that you can rearrange. So this is the same thing as x squared minus 23x plus 42. And then it's just like the other ones that we did. So don't let that throw you, okay? But again, I'll put in the notes which ones that you can skip. And then just make sure you get them all submitted. The ones that I'm telling you not to skip, make sure you get them submitted by the morning. And then I'll put the solutions for last night's on that the P4B assignment for those of you that needed to check them. All right, folks, that's it. Have a lovely day. I'll see you tomorrow. Enjoy your factoring, and we'll wrap it up tomorrow. Bye, guys.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
You're welcome. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Which is still just the normal factoring. But then the second page, there's some of them that start to mix. So just be careful with those, okay? So I would say that for tonight, you can skip, and we'll come back to it. 8, 9, 10, 11. Let me see what else. 15, and I'll make sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so I will put it on the assignment, but the ones I highlighted, you can skip for tonight. Just do all, but it's like sporadic, so just be careful, okay? It's not like 1 through 11 and then the rest not, okay? So I'm just fine. Second page, you can skip what's highlighted. 8, 9, 10, 11, 15. There's not, which is 16. That was leading into the factoring using the first and last process.
Okay.
So that is built into tonight's assignment. You don't need to do them.
Oh, okay.
Does that make sense? 16, if there's a term on the front.
You're gonna finish the problems on the assignment from yesterday that we...
No, because that's factoring by grouping that what we did at the end. So you don't need to do them again. Okay.
Huh?
27 and 28. That's like what we were doing before. So it's either look and